Hi and welcome to the launch of Sustainable Brand Index 2023 for Denmark. My name is Erik Elvingsson Hedén and I'm the founder and CEO of SB Insight, the company behind Sustainable Brand Index. I'm going to guide you through the coming hour of insights about sustainability on the Danish market. Sustainable Brand Index is Europe's largest brand study on sustainability. We started our journey back in 2011 in Sweden. 2 years later, 2013, we entered Norway, Denmark and Finland. And 2017, we entered the Dutch market, the Netherlands. And then since 2020, we're also present in Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania, the Baltic countries. How do we perform Sustainable Brand Index? Well, it is a large study covering these 8 markets. We do a lot of desk research looking at the markets to see what is happening and especially what questions do we need to ask to get the best insights. After that, we have 2 big field studies where we interview all in all 80,000 respondents in these 8 markets. It's a nationally representative sample of the population between 16 and 75 years old in each country. And we look at a total of approximately 1,600 brands across 36 different industries. In Denmark this year, we have interviewed 12,000 respondents and we have looked at a total of 243 brands across 24 industries. Now I would like to involve you a bit in this. And if you look in the chat, you will see a question. And the question is, what topic within sustainability do you think have been discussed among consumers the most over the past year? That is a good one. Think a bit, choose one of these 4 options, and in just a short while, we will give you the answer. What is the purpose of Sustainable Brand Index? Well, the purpose has been the same from the very beginning as it is still today. The purpose is to drive the agenda within sustainability and visualize the value of sustainable branding, and this leading to increased knowledge among different stakeholders, like consumers of course, about the importance of sustainability. The more they learn, the more they know, the more they will be interested and the more they will question. So it's a positive force of change basically. And the reason why we launched Sustainable Brand Index is this, we call it the sustainable perspective. Basically what we mean here is that sustainability has gone from being separate from the brand and irrelevant, to be honest, historically, to becoming more and more integrated into the brand and really the single most important part of how you assess and how you perceive a brand. And of course, we're looking forward and we're hoping for a future where we see a market with only sustainable brands that's going to be mandatory for survival for all the brands. Let's have a look now on the market and what has happened over the past year, and before that, within important topics such as the interest among consumers in sustainability, but also what areas do they prioritize the most. First of all, let's have a look at this KPI, an indicator that we have followed since the very beginning of Sustainable Brand Index in each market, the interest in sustainability. And we look at that from the perspective of how large a share of consumers in Denmark, in this case, discuss sustainability sometimes or often. And first of all, I want to mention that over the long-term trend is very positive, as you can see, going from 42% back in 2013 up to 59% today. So the long-term trend is positive. We do know, and for those of you who have listened to us earlier years or previous years, you know that what's happening on the market and around us is very important. So for example, we see that the interest was quite high in 2016. That was a direct consequence of the climate meeting in Paris in December 2015. After that, we had Donald Trump coming into power in 17, and there was a lot of focus on him, both in 17 and 18, and North Korea, as you may recall. And then huge increase to 2019, a lot of focus on climate change and Greta and activism. And then, of course, the pandemic came along and decreasing the numbers a bit. But we're still, as you can see, a bit lower than we were prior to the pandemic. But for the third year in a row, 2021, 22, 23, we are on a similar level, I would say, even though it goes down a bit. You can see 3 percentage points. That is a very small margin, so I wouldn't focus too much on it, but more or less staying on the same level as we have seen over the past 2 years as well. Let's have a look at the topics that people discuss the most over the past year, and this is also the answers to the question that we had earlier. Unsurprisingly, we see that war and conflicts has the number one spot here. Of course, this is something, given the war in Ukraine, that people are very occupied by and talk about a lot. So that is quite natural. Otherwise, we have climate change coming in on a good second, almost on the same level, actually. So we do see a high level of engagement, I would say, in that in Denmark. Public health and well-being also important, of course. Important to emphasize it's both the physical health but also the mental well-being that people are engaged in here. The domestic economy, also something that takes up space in the public discussions among people. And same level, as you can see there, for energy, and of course quite driven by the huge focus in the media and in the world on the energy crisis that we're currently in. So that is also quite natural. But this is the top 5 of topics that people at least claim to discuss the most over the past year in Denmark. When we take a look at the different sources that people go to or feel that they are influenced by within sustainability, we do see what I would actually call some kind of a fatigue among Danish consumers. We do see that some of the key sources, like documentaries, like media reporting, like reports from the academia and scientists, is going down. Same goes for sustainable products and services, as you can see. So we do have some indications here that Danish consumers are a bit less inclined to, gather or even listen when it comes to information about sustainability. And this is something that we will return to, because we do see this kind of fatigue on the Danish market that I want to emphasize. The most important areas or topics for companies to prioritize, if we ask consumers, are here. We can see that recycling and reuse of old material still the number one topic according to Danes when it comes to what companies should prioritize. We see good domestic working conditions, also very important, as number 2. This is also very similar to the rest of the Nordic countries. However, one thing that is quite different and quite special, I would say, for Denmark is number 3 here. So sustainable packaging, in many ways a fairly narrow topic, I would say, compared to many of the others here, but that is really a key area of interest and of priority when it comes to Danish consumers. So that is interesting to see, and you can also see that it's gone up since last year. Same for climate issue. The climate issue has gone up as well as number 4, so very close. I mean, all the top areas here, especially number 2, 3, and 4, are very close to each other, as you can see. The one topic, as you can see quite clearly a bit further down, is the good working conditions abroad. That is something that is actually less important this year, according to Danes, than last year. So that is also a quite clear development, as you can see here. But otherwise, again, some similarities to the Nordic neighbors, but especially this sustainable packaging focus is very unique for the Danish consumer. Looking at areas that people worry about the most, we can see that The environmental areas, if I may call them so, air and water pollution, waste of resources and materials, are actually going down a bit. Danish consumers are a bit less worried about this compared to last year. One of the reasons is, of course, that we have seen a war breaking out, and we have a lot of focus on the war in Ukraine. So as you can see, that has gone up a lot. People are worried about that, and that is also, again, an explanation as to why other areas go down. But of course, still interesting, still relevant to consider a bit how come that there is less of a worry about these pressing issues, I would say, when we talk about air and water pollution, but also waste of resources. That is something to address, both for consumers, of course, but also for companies. How can we actually make these areas maybe not worrying, but at least more and more relevant to consumers again? If you want to know more about this and other developments, we have a lot of different reports available. We have brand-specific reports if you want to dive deeper into your brand and how you're perceived. We also have market reports, which is actually a new thing this year, where you can dive into a specific market and understand consumer perceptions, behaviors, and much more. Let's have a look now at our different behavior groups. These are groups that reflect how consumers behave rather than how they say that they behave. We've been looking at these and following them for over 10 years now in our markets. So 2013 was the first year. And we have 4 groups named by us depending on how they behave. So we have the ego group, which you might guess yourself. This is a group that is not that interested in sustainability, not behaving very sustainably. This group focuses much more on functionality, price, and so on. We have the moderate group, big group, as you might guess. This is the group, not the one that is actually going to drive the development themselves. They're really much more into, looking at others, how are they behaving. So when others start to behave more sustainably, this group starts to move as well. So this is really the mass that we need to move in the coming years. Then we have the smart group. You might guess from the name, this is a group that can actually value both, what's in it for me and what's in it for the world, the balance. They can make the good decisions with both of these in mind. And then finally, the slightly smaller group, as you might guess, the dedicated group, the group that actually prioritizes sustainability as a number one area, no matter what. So sustainability is always at the top of the list. When we look at the development of the different behavior groups in Denmark, we can see that this is actually kind of an adventurous or interesting year. We see that the ego group is going up a bit, up to 28% from the previous 24%. At the same time, we see that the dedicated group is going up. So here we can actually start to see a potential polarization of the market, because the dedicated group hitting 13% is an all-time high, as you can see on the Danish market. It's also the highest in the Nordic region, in the Nordic countries, higher than the other countries in Sweden, Norway, and Finland. So again, kind of a polarization here. We also see that the smart group is going down, actually more or less on the same level as when we started measuring it back in 2013, 18%. And the moderate group going down a bit as well, but still a fairly stable development, I would say, if you look at the long-term trend for moderate. So still the biggest group by far, but I think the key takeaways here is that we're seeing tendencies, I would say, when it comes to a potential polarization, with ego growing and also dedicated growing. Now it's time for a jury prize, which is called Venture of the Year in Sustainable Branding. I won't go into the Danish today, but you will see it here. And this is a prize that we started handing out actually in 2014 in Sweden, first time. And this year it's the first time we're doing it in Denmark. So we're very excited about this. And this is a prize where the jury, which I'm soon going to introduce, chooses a venture of some kind. Can be a communication campaign, can be a project, can be an app, etc. That actually contributes to help us towards a sustainable future. There are 4 criteria for the venture of the year that the jury has assessed each of the nominated ventures based on. We have, first of all, innovation. Is this an initiative that tests something new, or does it challenge existing norms within the industry or on the market? Engagement, is it an initiative that actually creates consumer engagement, or has it even nudged people to a more sustainable behavior? The next one is impact. Is it an initiative that has already, or at least potentially, has the potential to actually, create long-lasting positive change? And finally, of course, very important, creativity. Is this an initiative that actually stands out based on how it's been executed from a creative point of view, the design, the branding, or the communication? So these are the 4 criteria that the jury has looked at for all the nominated ventures this year. The jury for Venture of the Year 2023 in Denmark, you see it here. That's Mette from Mærsk Copenhagen, the agency. We have Line Schmeltz, as you can see as well. And then finally, we have Eva, who is the editor at CSR DK. As I understand it, this has been a challenging work for the jury. But don't take it from me. Let's hear directly from the jury how they have worked, and also, of course, which is the Venture of the Year 2023?
In the jury, we were very impressed by all the cases submitted. Every case, in their own way, makes a great contribution to the green transition.
Yes, and in addition to the criteria set by the Sustainable Brand Index, we've also paid special attention to the projects or campaigns where the brand behind has something at stake and is brave. So in other words, we really like the campaigns where they know that not everybody will love what they're doing, and they might even lose customers in this.
So the winner of Årets Indsats 2022 put a spotlight on a critical problem to society, and they did it in a way that involved stakeholders, and many of them, and with an opportunity for contributing with real solutions to the green transition. And the winner is Andy, who made a great campaign about the windmills and putting spotlight on the problem with we all want green energy and we all want windmills, but just not in my backyard. So, Andy, congratulations.
Soon it is time to look at the ranking in Sustainable Brand Index 2023. Some of you may know that there is also a communicative aspect of Sustainable Brand Index. If you are, for example, the winner of the ranking or the winner in your particular industry, you may also talk a bit about it and communicate that fact. This has been a discussion both externally but also a lot internally at SB Insight. We really want this to be done in the right way. And after a lot of discussions and debates, we have landed in a new format for this. This is the new badge that the winners will get, as you can see here. It's much clearer, and for us it's really important to be very transparent and clear about that. Sustainable Brand Index measures the perception of sustainability. And also we have new guidelines, even stricter guidelines. We have been strict historically, but now we're even stricter. And finally, last but not least, if you feel that some brand, for example, is communicating in a way that is perhaps not good, you may also report that. So you can send an email to report@sbindex.com. So this is our way of addressing some issues that have been around this. Now it is time to look at how the brands have performed in Sustainable Brand Index 2023. First, it's time for you to get involved again. We have another question for you that we want you to answer. Guessing. So the question is, do you think that consumer trust in sustainability communication has gone up or down over the past year? Before venturing into the ranking, looking at the development and how different brands are perceived, I just want to explain to you how the ranking is calculated, basically. So the ranking is based on two overarching areas. We call it environmental responsibility and social responsibility. Those are the two areas. Environmental responsibility is defined by the environmentally related goals in the global goals, the 17 global goals, whereas social responsibility is defined by the socially oriented goals in the global goals for sustainable development. So this is the definition or the definitions that we use when we ask respondents about how they perceive different brands. And then we put those on top of each other. So if you're perfect, you can have 100% in environmental responsibility and 100% in social responsibility. So the score goes from 0 to 200%. That's important to remember. Let's have a look at the average ranking score in Denmark this year. This is the average of all brands in the Danish ranking and the other countries, as you can see. Here we see a sharp increase for the Danish market, actually. So going from 41% to 55%. So we see that it's actually many, many more Danish consumers that are positive to how brands and companies work with sustainability this year compared to last year. And we do see that it's a long-term positive trend for the Danish market. If you look back to the beginning, we were at 16% and now we're at 55%. So slowly and steadily, we see that more and more people have opinions, but also more positive opinions around how companies work with sustainability. And of course, I need to point out the thing happening in Norway. Norway is collapsing a bit, as you can see. We see an end of a honeymoon where Norwegian consumers have been very, very, very positive about how they perceive brands, and now they're actually starting to doubt how brands actually are doing within sustainability. So that's just worth knowing. Let's take a look at the industry winners in Sustainable Brand Index 2023. You can see them, and we have some familiar old ones, classic winners, so to speak, and also some new ones. So congratulations to these winners. Well done, and we applaud you. From industry winners to top 10 2023, we see some changes here. We can see that Arla, the classic Danish, Swedish for that matter, dairy brand, moves from number 12 to number 4. So that's a great jump for Arla, coming in at number 4. We also see that their competitor Naturmjölk comes in from nowhere, actually. This is a new brand, 2023, comes in at number 5, so well done there as well. Otherwise, we see some old top 10 brands. We see Rema 1000, which you probably remember. They won Sustainable Brand Index 2022 and 21. So here we can derive that we have a new winner this year. Very exciting. And the new winner of Sustainable Brand Index 2023 in Denmark is Englamark. Congratulations, strong brand, strong sustainable brand, and now on top of the world in Sustainable Brand Index as well.
Englamark er i dag blevet kåret som Danmarks mest bæredygtige brand af de danske forbrugere. Det er vi rigtig stolte af. Og vi er ekstra stolte af, at det netop er forbrugerne, som har kåret Englamark som det mest bæredygtige brand. Fordi vi har netop skabt Englamark-serien for at hjælpe kunderne og danskerne med at kunne træffe mere bæredygtige valg i deres hverdag. Enten man vil støtte økologien, gøre noget godt for miljøet eller undgå skadelig kemi. I dag er der over 1200 forskellige varenumre i Englamark-serien. Det er lige fra frugt og grønt, til mejeri, til kød, til stearinlys, bleer, servietter osv. Og det har vi gjort, fordi vi gerne vil hjælpe danskerne igennem hverdagen og kunne træffe de bæredygtige valg. Fordi vi ved, at vare for vare, så kan vi være med til at gøre en forskel for os selv og for vores familie, og selvfølgelig også for miljøet. Så endnu en gang, tusind tak til forbrugerne for at have kåret Englamark som Danmarks mest bæredygtige brand.
Congratulations once again to all the winners. Well done. If your brand is in the ranking, as you may know, there is actually much more insights to get. So we can provide you with an in-depth tailored report for your specific brand. That is available, so if you're interested, let us know. We are approaching the end, but before that, we're going to have a look at sustainability communication, and that is a hard nut to crack, and it is a challenge to be credible and have an impact at the same time. So let's have a closer look at what consumers think about corporate sustainability communication today. First, let's have a look at the interest in sustainability communication among Danish consumers. We see that it has gone down over the past years, as you can see, from 50% 2 years ago to actually 42% this year, saying that they are positive to sustainability communication from companies. At the same time, which is quite logical, we see that the negatives, people saying I don't really care for communication about sustainability from companies, goes to actually a quarter of the Danish population. So this is a negative development, I would say, which is of course worrying, given the situation where companies want to and perhaps also need to communicate about sustainability. Better news when it comes to the trust in sustainability communication, although I wouldn't go as far as saying yes, it's good news, but we do see that it is a bit of an increase this year from 26% last year saying that they trust what companies say to 32% saying that they trust what companies say in sustainability. And also, which is quite logical, we go from 31% saying that they don't trust communication about sustainability from companies to 25%. So this is a positive development. One might wonder and reflect upon the fact that we know that the Danish Consumer Ombudsman is very harsh when it comes to sustainability communication. Is this an effect? Is this actually a positive effect of these quite tight rules and this kind of stricter and stricter regulation that we see on the Danish market? That could be a positive effect of that. So let's try and summarize a bit what we have been saying about the Danish market and the developments over the past year. So first of all, we see potential signs of fatigue among Danish consumers. Maybe they're getting a bit tired of all this talk about sustainability. That is, of course, slightly worrying, I would say. We see that the communication, the interest in communication is going down. So the engagement, I would say, is also quite logically perhaps also showing signs of going down, and it's tougher to be a brand out there, basically. On the other hand, the positive side here is that we actually see that the awareness, people's awareness about brands and companies work with sustainability is going up, the attitude as well, so we have more positive consumers, so that's a good kind of a other side of the coin, I would say here. And finally also we see signs, which is perhaps good to see, that the dedicated group, this very, sustainability always priority one, is really high, is 13%. It's gone up a lot, all-time high, and also the biggest one in the Nordics, in Denmark. On the other hand, this is also a sign that we might see a polarization on the market, that the dedicated going up, the ego as well. So we see that, there is a polarizing tendency on the market. So some things to work on. It's definitely challenging. The work is far from done on the Danish market. The things we have talked about today and more is available now in the official report on sbindex.com. If you want to know even more and go deeper, we have some different options for you. If your brand is a part of the ranking list in Sustainable Brand Index, there are different types of in-depth tailored brand reports available. Let us know if you want to look at one of those. If your brand is not on the list, but you still want to dive deeper into the market and what's happened and different consumer groups, etc., we have a so-called market report available. That's also something you can check out on our website, sbindex.com. If you have any questions, don't hesitate, let us know. Thank you so much for today.